Welcome back, party people. Today we're going to keep playing this game, and we're also going to try. There we go. We're going to try to. We're going to finish talking about Warren G. Harding, and then we're going to talk about quite possibly one of my favorite presidents of all time. One who's a man after my own heart. That man, by the way, is Calvin Coolidge. The 30th President of these United States of America. Warren, though, he's one of a complicated history. One who I think was a president who ultimately was more installed and given a platform more so than any other individual.
Sorry, kid. Can't risk a field trip on this one.
Yeah, because you all have so much experience.
I just think he was a flawed person. And one who probably shouldn't have been president. A definite go-getter. Someone who ultimately wanted to, push forth his ideals. And, and yet I do believe he is someone who more or less did want to actually try to help people and do more for people. Yeah, Spidey. Get it, bud. Get it. Yeah, my two faves, bro. We're gonna do it. We're doing it. But he dies, and then his successor, Mr. Calvin Coolidge, is brought forth into the presidency and ends up becoming the 30th President of the United States of America. I'm going to tell you a couple things about him and why he is ultimately my favorite President of the United States. He is quite literally the single most libertarian president of all time. In the right ways of what it means to be like a libertarian, in my personal view. But specifically, I would say he is by far, objectively, the single most libertarian, conservative president, probably since at least the Founding Fathers, probably. I mean, legitimately. It's crazy. His nickname was Silent Cow, one of the best stories, which I still don't know if it's actually true, but it's actually so believable because he just doesn't say anything, he doesn't talk, that when he was at the White House, they were having, White House dinner party. A congressman made a bet to someone, I think it was a lady, who had heard the rumors of him basically being very quiet and silent, and told him, or made a bet that you can't get him to say more than 3 words. She tries to talk to him, and it gets to a point where she's just completely just like, you don't say anything, do you? And then he explains the bet, and then in which case Calvin Coolidge replies, you lose. And he only says 2 words, and I'm just like, this guy is so savage, if that's true. But it actually kind of goes along the lines with a lot of his ideals and perspectives and just how he ran and runs things as a president. He is the president during the time that we would consider specifically the Roaring 20s. Ends up leaving office after 2 terms because he's just done, and a lot of other reasons too. But he is someone who should be considered a top-tier president. I mean, one of the greatest presidents of all time in my personal view. Although I think historically a lot of people always put him in the middle and don't actually understand a lot of the things that he did and what he was good for. And truth is the reason why he's ranked so low is because he doesn't use the federal government to do anything. He doesn't force people to do anything. He just lets people live their lives. I think he's the last president in the history of this country to basically get rid of the income tax, or rid the income tax, or at least bring it all the way down to at least 0 to 1%, which is just crazy today. What? Okay. Okay, so apply a 3-week.
I take it we're on to plan B.
Okay,
It's probably more like Plan 1.5. I'm betting those smaller bells vibrate at a similar frequency to their big brother. May not be perfect, but they could buy me the time I need to get that sample.
We have your sample right here, little spider.
Yep,
oh.
right into that one.
Boop. So we have to take down the, or fix the church bell. Ugh, this is gonna be a hard level. I can already tell.
You have earned this.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out the mechanisms real quick. Oh, it's ringing a small bell. How do we fix the church bell exactly?
This ought to slow him down.
I'm actually really confused about what I'm supposed to be doing. So he's weak, he's vulnerable. Is he susceptible to attack? But he has infinite lives. How? Repair the church bell. While fallen venom is. Okay. Okay. This is gonna be a very long level.
Must be tough losing
Well, it's a good thing I
decades.
changed the whatchamacallit. I stopped this part so that I could start this new part. Keep in mind, I probably play these 1 or 2 parts back to back, just so I can keep my content within a reasonable level. Spider-Man.
Talk about a sticky situation.
Not bad, a slime
We'll always remember this place, Spider-Man. Remember what you did to us here before. We are done playing games. This will be your doom.
Oh, did I already have full? Oh, I'm dumb.
Moved on from wanting to eat my brain, now he's just trying to marry me. That's progress, right?
Just hit him with the bells, please.
Okay. No. Let's do that.
going in. Not so tough after all. Roger that.
Okay.
I cannot possibly match your strength.
Spider-Man. But you know, we're here to hear about Calvin Coolidge. Which is, I need to also point out too. despite what historical records would indicate, Calvin Coolidge was a very popular president. I mean, it's very easy to be a popular president when you're basically saying, hey, I think you guys should pay far less in taxes. And I think that's pretty fair, you know?
Spidey senses are tingling.
Have longed for this
Fortified.
in this cursed place. When you are gone, we shall feast upon your new friend heroes. And then devour your precious Mary Jane.
Flap. 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 Flap.
Like, shut up already.
Yeah, this is kind of an OP, overpowered team right here.
It's good to have friends. No point in holding out now.
Yeah, let's have Spidey interrogate him.
We will crack your tiny bones.
was actually a pretty hard. Hostile reinforcements.
Anyways, I'm getting way off track here. Calvin Coolidge, one of my favorite presidents. He's probably my favorite modern president by every stretch of the imagination.
May be right. This symbiote sample is not what
One that if we had basically more of him, I think the world would be a far better place.
Mary Jane, Harry, Flash,
Oh, so close, but I'll take it.
about nothing.
He was born on the 4th of July, 1872, I believe. He was originally born in Vermont. I think he and his family would migrate towards I need to get rid of some of these guys too. Nope. I want to use whip. Whip it good. His family would migrate to Massachusetts. He was the oldest son of Calvin Coolidge Sr. He's named after his dad. I guess specifically something like his family name is representative and more of a lineage thing to John Calvin. His family obviously is Protestant. His dad was very involved in politics in Vermont. Big farmer. I think he was a tax collector, and he was a part of the Virginia House of Representatives. Did a whole bunch of different things. Unfortunately, his mom would die when he's pretty young. So would his sister too. Hey, tuberculosis is a very destructive thing.
Arsenic, lead, zinc, and silver. 7th grade trip to the Liberty Bell.
Does anyone need health? Oh, I should probably free cap. I just need like a cheap attack. Okay.
This one's for you. I guess they just weren't ready.
So now he's downed. I need 10. I did not know that. I don't think I can get 10 though, that's the problem. Hmm. I hope he's down for at least one more turn.
What did I do to deserve this?
Of course he's recovered. Okay.
My respect for Spider-Man grows every time I am forced to look into this creature's drooling maw.
Okay, well. Let's figure it out. Okay. At least this turn, we gotta just get rid of some of these guys. This is just becoming not a good situation.
I'm on it.
That's gonna leave a mark. I think you got him.
Grew up pretty normally in Vermont. He ends up just being very quiet. Pretty, not want to say sad, but very somber kid. I think he's just, you know, losing family like that. His dad remarries, moves around a lot. I feel like if I was there at that time, I could probably do much more better social and analytical look at Calvin Coolidge, and I think I could probably get a pretty decent look and figure out why he is the way he is. I really don't need that one. Screw that. Just down. God, this is gonna be a very long battle.
Leave some for the rest of us.
I don't really have anything. I probably should have just done that.
Right. Feeling it.
See, that would have been much better.
You are puny. You will die.
Crap.
Eddie, I thought we were friends.
Crap.
They got my number that time.
Behold the light's gift.
Every little bit.
Let's settle this.
Shield.
We will heal faster than you.
He's just a doting son, though. goes to college in Massachusetts. Forgot which college he went to. It's a pretty. Is it Amherst? I think he went to Amherst College. Becomes joins a fraternity. I think he graduates summa cum laude. Like, he ends up basically learning so much philosophy. And really, I think what really helped him in his youth and growing up was
I think I saw some of that thing
first
on the
year.
floor of the Abbey.
Nope. Oh, I can just move here. He learns a lot about moral philosophy, ethics. I think is a real big thing around that time for him.
I saw a move like that once, centuries ago.
Specifically, there's a quote. I'm gonna look it up actually, but because I think this really explains a lot of his ideals. Let me see. It was his philosophy professor. Looking it up now.
Is that truly your best?
Give me a second. Charles Edward Garmond was his professor, and why can't I move now? Oh well. Okay, here we go. The quote was, "There is a standard of righteousness that might does not make right, that the end does not justify the means, and that expediency as a working principle is bound to fail. The only hope of perfecting human relationships is in accordance with the law of service under which men are not so solicitous that about what they shall get as they are about what they shall give. Yet people are entitled to the rewards of their industry. What they earn is theirs, no matter how small or how great, but the possession of property carries the obligation to use it in a larger service." That's just a fire philosophical perspective and point of view for me. Just fire. It's the only way I could put it.
That's some move.
Peel back your flesh.
All right. I felt that one.
They're not giving up yet.
Do.
Perhaps if someone fed the creature, it would stop complaining so much.
Take that sucker.
You were asking.
This will cost 2. Actually, it doesn't really matter what I do.
Engaging.
Okay, that was awesome.
That's basically, I think, for the most part, a lot of Calvin Coolidge's beliefs. Just you know, everyone has their rights. You can't force things upon people. You should always do the best that you humanly can for your fellow man, if not for yourself. And that people really need to prioritize doing what is objectively right, not what is expedient, or, you know, basically saying that, like, in a lot of ways, people's moral philosophy and compass get screwed up sometimes. You would definitely not say he's a communist in any way, shape, and form, where, you know, a lot of their beliefs, I think, tend to come from, how do I put it? It's not that I think that they're bad people, communists, for instance. I just think that they, oh crap, am I gonna kill Cap? Oh, thank God, okay. And it's not that I think that they are inherently bad, or I think a lot of people who tend to view the communist ideals tend to, you know, want to do better and do right by people, but I also think that comes at the cost of misunderstanding how humanity and the world works in a lot of ways, which leads me to believe that they don't have their ideals, their perspectives, and a real understanding of how things truly work and operate, and are so idealistic that they tend to be very just not good in a lot of ways, and ultimately ends up hurting a lot of their future endeavors. Basically saying you should probably take care of yourself first, and if you're going to do right by the people and do all these things that are altruistic, it should be for good reasons. It should be for reasons that are justifiable. It should be for things that help objectively people, not, you know, this perception of helping people. Anyways, he begins practicing law immediately. He starts working at a local law firm, starts practicing law, actually, or studying law and then practicing law. Oh, this is a short mission. What am I doing?
Fury's got 2 teams digging for Venom as we speak.
You may want to add 2 or 3 more.
Anyways, he begins practicing law around the turn of the century, around the late 1890s. He opened up his own law firm in Northampton. Practiced a lot of commercial law.
I'll remember this moment forever.
Hardworking, diligent attorney. Basically, just because he does his job well, he ends up getting a lot of business, a lot of work.
Yeah, at least Stark's credit card is good for something.
Around this time, too, he meets a lovely lady named Grace.
Executed like a champ. Craziest plan I ever saw in my life. Still can't believe he pulled that off.
Yes, and now we must make use of the sample he recovered.
We?
All right, everyone. I know you all have a lot more important things to do than cheer little old me on. Let's go save the world. Oh, and if anyone happened to record any of this, feel free to send it my way. For training purposes, of course.
What's her name? Meets Grace.
Between you and me, I wasn't 100% sure that little plan would pay off out there.
They end up getting married pretty soon after.
I still had that little voice in the back of my head. Screw this up, Venom's gonna be snacking on your skull. Even worse, would have let you down. Not to mention the others.
I always knew you would succeed.
They had 2 kids.
The praise you received.
Thanks.
John Coolidge and Calvin Jr. John lives a very long time. I think he lives well into his 90s.
So long trying to keep Spider-Man and Peter Parker separate from each other.
Unfortunately,
I never really
his youngest son, Calvin Jr., dies at a very young age.
Friends?
Exactly. Thank you for that, Hunter.
It's a pretty sad story, to be honest with you. I think while he's president,
How we keep the doc home, keep you less explodey.
it's kind of a bizarre story, too. Basically, his son was playing tennis, and he basically gets a cut or a blister that ends up getting infected, so much so that he goes into septic shock and ends up dying. He's only like a teenager too. And Calvin Coolidge really took that hard. He took that very personally, and that was a very devastating death for him.
Whoa. Mind just.
You know, I think a lot of people also point out that, you know, he probably did suffer from real bad clinical depression, what would be constituted at nowadays as clinical depression, which I think is pretty fair considering his temperament, how he is, and how he was, you know.
I doubt even Lilith saw that one coming.
Still reading Wanda's grimoire, I see.
Yeah? Why?
Now, growing up, he was always a Republican. His family was always Republican. They grew up in Republican politics. His father was a Republican in Vermont in Republican politics.
I just wish there was more dark knowledge.
He was a big fan of William McKinley.
Just gonna have to make it here. According to her grimoire, it looks like Agatha was
He
helping
starts
Bond
getting into
with her
politics at this time at the
magic
urging of other people, individuals.
Chaos magic is a hell
He's
of a
basically
lot
like,
more
alright, I guess I'll
powerful
just go and do all this stuff.
There's a way I can figure out how to use it to undo Lilith.
Ends up joining a bunch of city offices. I think he joins the city council of Northampton. Becomes the city solicitor in Northampton at the turn of the century,
Hardcore elder god magic and inventing a potentially
while
dangerous
also still being a lawyer.
I am dangerous.
Okay, Danger. You can help me.
And
by not telling Kira
you know, things are looking up for him. He doesn't stay there very long.
corruption can be undone, and we'll totally try and stop
Ugh. Sorry, my throat's killing me. It's really dry here.
it. She lacks more than
Ends up
well,
basically going back to private life once Democrats win back his city's
Keep your secret.
seats effectively and sit in the city council. Also, a little tidbit too. He's one of the first presidents, and one of the few presidents we do have like actual voice recordings on. And it is objectively very bizarre to hear his voice. You look at him, you think he's a very gruff man, you know, yada yada.
Meet you there.
And
Let's head over.
when you actually hear his voice, it's like, oh, like he has a very high pitched voice, just really high pitched voice.
Looks like we're all here. Grab a seat and let's get started.
Now, just in terms of his politics specifically, I would say he is
One of my favorite books, if not my favorite.
a progressive social Republican in terms of social, in terms of social rights, but more so in terms of, like, say, women's suffrage, workers' rights, etc., etc.
This book laid things out.
The only thing that I probably wouldn't be the biggest advocate for him was the direct election of senators that he was an advocate for.
Before you can hope to defeat
Otherwise, he's fiscally conservative. He's conservative on federal government, a whole bunch of different things.
discover her weakness. With that came her defeat.
And he ends up being elected to the Massachusetts. Lilith's weakness. You understood Lilith, which led you to discover her weakness.
I lost 300 years to understand.
He ends up
Not a success.
I would.
joining the Massachusetts House of Representatives. Becomes a pretty big name there.
Until we know what game Lilith is playing.
Mainly because he's just popular, and ultimately people are just going to keep voting for him because he's voting for what his constituency ultimately wants him to.
I'm the Daywalker.
And
Of course it is.
I wouldn't say he's savvy as a politician, to be quite honest with you. Especially when he becomes president, it's abundantly clear he just does what he believes is ultimately right. But, you know, he has his allies. Specifically, this one U.S. Senator, Winthrop Crane. He was a big senator in the Northeast and had a lot of pull in that particular area. It was basically like him, Henry Cabot Lodge, their big adversaries. You know how like there's different sects of different groups who align with each other within specific parties. Like, it's like Democrats today. You have like an Obama wing, you got like a Biden wing, you got like the Nancy Pelosi wing. They're all those different groups for the most part. It's kind of like that back then.
The art of war encourages fluidity of thought.
I think it helped too that he was very quiet. Wasn't very outspoken. He just voted accordingly and only spoke up when he needed to, which I think definitely helped him a lot, and at least grow in terms of the politics. But you know, I don't think that was really for him though. Was being in the House. He ends up leaving the Massachusetts House of Representatives pretty much at the tail end of Teddy Roosevelt's second term as president. Actually runs for mayor in Northampton and beats the incumbent, which was a Democrat, and he beats the Democrat, wins, is mayor for a couple years there, ultimately ends up really just basically doing what a government probably should be doing. He raises teacher salaries, fixed a bunch of things, you just used the money effectively, and also decreased taxes, which is crazy. And ends up, people are just like, dude, this guy's pretty chill, you know what I'm saying? We like this guy. After his first term as president, he, as mayor, he ends up running again, wins by an even bigger margin the second time. But at that point, after a year being mayor, Massachusetts Republican Party was asking him to run for state senator. Basically just dominates and becomes the state senator for Massachusetts. And he's basically just this arbitrator for unions, the working man, etc., etc. I think Teddy Roosevelt really, I don't say liked him, but I think he saw what he was doing at that point. It was like, interesting. Okay. I think it helped too that he was more of a Teddy Roosevelt progressive Republican than really anything else. He's putting forth a bunch of different acts, promoting industrialization, promoting women's suffrage, you know, while still being very fiscally conservative, you know. Has many big speeches, etc., etc. For him, big speeches, which tend to just be like, I'm gonna do this, do that, yada yada. Okay, cool, you know. Small speech every here now and then. Ends up running for the lieutenant governorship in Massachusetts, and eventually he will become governor.
That is it for me.
Later then.
Ooh, what do I get? Interesting. Sweet. Book clubs are fun, people.
I wanted to talk to you about. Actually, let's go someplace else. It's a little personal. I wanted to talk to you about book club.
Oh, having a good time?
I'm having a great time. Always good to flex the old brain muscles. I need your advice, though.
What kind of advice?
It's about Blade. I get the feeling that all of book club is just his roundabout way of
Cap.
to be friends with me. I mean, I'm touched. He seems like a good guy, but shy. So how do I tell him I'm totally cool with being best pals without scaring him off. Got any thoughts?
If you want to be friends with Blade, just tell him.
You really think I should just...
Oh, don't be shy, Cap. I'd be friends with you in a heartbeat.
Killers and not bat an eye. You want to
Long story short, becomes lieutenant governor, does a bunch of really good things, fiscally conservative things, progressive things, runs for governor in 1918, and wins unopposed. Just, they're like, dude, you're the governor. Just do it.
Just listening to me. Now,
He basically was just like, look, I'm fiscally conservative.
a couple of chapters behind.
Prohibition, it is what it is. I'll turn a blind eye if I have to, you know. The only thing I probably wouldn't say is a positive thing on his record is he was very prominent and supportive of the U.S.'s involvement during World War I. Outside of that, he pretty much he was just the guy in Massachusetts. The only thing that was in contention was, I'll get to it in just a little bit. I'm going to stop this part right now, but it'll be about the Boston police strike of 1918, I believe it was. But until then, like and subscribe. God bless. Hope y'all have a great day. Y'all rock.